expressed on this podcast are not necessarily representative of the Coalition or any other entity. This content is intended for mature audiences only.
Throwdown.
What is going on, people? Welcome to Throwdown, episode 154. I'm your host, Tony Polanco, and tonight I'm joined by Emilio Lopez.
And we're back. Hello, people.
Chris Seeley.
Hey, what's up, everyone?
Carlos Romero.
Yo.
Brian Manjoma.
Remember me?
Brett Murdoch.
What's up, everybody?
Adam Vale.
Lucha Underground gonna be in movie theaters. What?
And we got a very special guest tonight, my man, the myth, the legend, all that, Mr. Richard Bailey Jr., editor-in-chief of the Coalition.
Yeah, what's up, everybody? I don't know about the special guests, but yeah, I'm happy to be here.
There we go, man. We got a lot of stuff to cover tonight, Rich. It's gonna be interesting, man.
Specialist of guests.
Yeah. I mean, you're not special because you're like, you're not really on. You're just a special man in general. You know what I'm saying?
Let go, you feel, let go.
All right, man. A couple things here before we start. All right, so, and I've been asked about this for a while, so I finally did it. So Throwdown is now on Mixer, baby. 3 platforms. We mixed it all day, every day. Very interesting that I was like, I could stream like PlayStation shit on a Xbox, streaming service. Very interesting,
What's funny, my Xbox app popped up saying that you were broadcasting on Xbox. It didn't say Mixer, but it said broadcasting.
Yeah, because I did earlier today. I was broadcasting Cuphead through Mixer and shit on my Xbox. It's pretty interesting, Also, oh man, it finally caught up with us, people. Fucking YouTube has demonetized some of our shit. Kind of fucked up.
Yeah. And we're still trying to figure out what it is that's caused it. It's a kind of a random bag of things. Like one episode where we had the Mario thumbnail, the one with the Cammy thumbnail, the 2 recent Tony's takes, and I think some other things in there. Oh yeah, my Hellblade playthrough. So, yeah, I don't know what in there was doing that.
Yeah, I'm guessing because Rich, Coalition has been hit by this shit like 2 months ago, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. All we did was make a video talking about Destiny 2. And I guess Destiny 2 is a bad word for YouTube. So they said, well, we're going to demonetize that.
Yeah, it's some bullshit. Like I said, I uploaded one video to the channel, right? I think it was Dana at like a little convention. Dana doesn't curse. It got demonetized before the shit even finished rendering, bro. It's like, wait, what? It's so silly, I don't know, man. So yeah, that's going on in the streets. Not cool. What are you gonna say, Manny?
Wait, the eyes of YouTube are now upon us.
Yeah, right. But also another cool thing, to talk about streaming. We had our first stream from Mr. Chris Seeley last night, so that was pretty cool. Playing some old ass games, man. Getting kicked. Hey, Chris, you did pretty well though, man. I don't think I could have gotten that far.
Yeah, I mean, oh man, I showed the Disney afternoon games, and besides the fond memories of DuckTales, don't bother with the rest of them. They're Darkwing Duck is broken, Tailspin is broken. Like it's just awful. They're not all created equal.
Yeah, especially Darkwing Duck. Ooh, man, that was bad.
Oh yeah, it was very bad.
All right,
Quack Shot. That was fun with the plungers.
Yeah, and then with Chippendale's Rescue Rangers, it's like somebody had told you how to throw a box. I didn't know you had to throw a box. You're trying to jump on them and shit. It wasn't working.
I'm like so defenseless. It's like throw the box. I'm like, what? You could do that?
Yeah,
it's crazy. All right, man. So our feature topic tonight is going to be about loot crates because the topic won't go away. We talked about this on Throwing Your Questions. We were asked about it because of the whole Shadow War thing. But now, pretty much every big game this fall has loot crates of some kind, right? Shadow War, Destiny 2, Battlefront 2, Forza Motorsport 7, and Call of Duty World War 2. across the board have all this shit, and people are getting pretty annoyed by this shit. But Rich, I want to get your thoughts first, since because I know you guys are gonna talk about this on co-op, but I want you to share your thoughts on it right here first on Throwdown. So what do you think about this whole thing with loot crates, especially this year?
Well, first and foremost, let me go ahead and say that I believe that Forza 7, this is the example of one of the worst practices for the loot boxes. Yeah, I mean, I think it's okay if you give people an option as to whether or not they buy something, but when you force it and it impacts the gameplay, that's when it becomes the issue. I know I did find out, before you started recording, Star Wars Battlefront, I guess EA now said, well, they're going to reevaluate how they actually use their the loot box system in their game. We'll see about that.
Well, for Star Wars, it was pretty stupid. Like even in the demo, like the demo was like, really? I mean, it almost unfairly gives you an advantage over everybody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
All of them need to learn on how EA did it. I mean, with the FIFA Ultimate Team, FUT, that's their own little loot crates, getting those packs. Just make it a special mode. People don't have to do it. People don't have to play it. But if you do want to get into that whole loot thing, there's a special mode for that. The fact that all these publishers are just trying to like squeeze it into freaking everything they do, that's wrong. Because it's sort of forcing people to do it. It's not an option.
No, absolutely. And I will say one other thing. I know that I had a tweet a few days ago in which I blamed Gary Swaby and his love of Overwatch for this phenomenon. Well, I have to stay true to that, because I think Overwatch definitely got a lot of people interested in putting this in all their games. But obviously, it's a difference the way they do it in Overwatch versus how they actually do it in all these other games. But yeah, when it affects the gameplay, that's when it's a issue.
Yeah, like, if it's cosmetic shit, I don't really care. It's when it affects gameplay that I kind of have to take issue with it. I did a video on this earlier this week, and I basically said, basically what's going on is, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they're doing this. Obviously, it's the video game industry. Industries are supposed to be about making money, so I get that. But I think, mobile gaming has a lot of effect on it, because, like, think about it with mobile gaming. You buy these little things that don't cost too much, and you keep on buying them and buying them and buying it because they like give you upgrades to help you get through shit a lot faster. That's definitely happening. And the thing with Overwatch is, even though we have had loot boxes before, that game really like them to a whole other level, like recently, you know what I mean? Because gamers' memories aren't too long for whatever reason, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, it's crazy. But and again, it puts me in a weird spot, because I'm like, on the one hand, it's like people should be free to do what they want with their money. Companies should be free to do what they want with their product. But at the same time, it's kind of getting to that point where it's getting a little fucking ridiculous. I'm playing Shadow War, and we're going to give our impressions of it. But, everything's fine. I don't have to buy any loot boxes. But I've hearing that if you want that real ending, you're going to have to grind like a bitch or buy some loot boxes, which is not cool. That's not the way it should be, man. Kind of fucked up what's going on,
I think it's going to be one of those things where once they're all out there and we see all these games, and then people start really bitching, and then the casuals start getting involved, then next gen we'll see something different. Right now, this is our reality. We're going to start seeing this in all these games, and it's going to be interesting, because I have a feeling some people will jump on them. What was it? There was one, I forgot if it was EA, maybe it was EA. It was a long time ago. And they were talking about like packs and the opening up, and as opposed to just buying players. Yeah, I think it was because it was a FUT. And he said he did a focus group, and people get more excited unwrapping things. It's like when you get a present, right? You're like, oh wow, what's inside? Maybe you know, maybe you don't know. So it's like, what if they can give you little chunks of that in the game? So you get these little adrenaline boosts when you go to open them up. Maybe you get something you want, maybe you don't. Maybe you get a bunch of other stuff. But it's just that weird adrenaline boost that happens. And so I think that's the other reason why they're putting them into these loot bags, as opposed to just saying, hey, you want to buy this, you want to buy that, it's all separate. Yeah, it helps them, because then you'll keep getting the boxes until you get what you're looking for. But at the same time, you're getting something else, because you're getting that what if, that surprise.
Yeah, I'm going to get to that in a little bit, but something interesting. Matt Piscatella, he does NPDs, right? he brought up a good point. He says that you wouldn't see these things in so many games if people didn't buy them, which is true. You know, people didn't buy them, they wouldn't be in games. You know, because the thing is, because we have to like realize that we kind of see things through a little bit of a weird bubble, right? Because we just really converse with other hardcore gamers. Most hardcore gamers aren't really into this shit. Casuals are a different story, right? They're buying the shit in droves, so it's definitely has an audience out there, you know. So that's why it's kind of hard to, you know, stop it or whatever. Because like again, because like if you were to just see it from our perspective, like these things wouldn't exist because most of the people we converse with hate them, but most of the people buying them are not the people we hang out with or associate with mostly. It's really crazy. And also, the other thing I want to bring up, this is interesting too, because quick shout out to Hashling and Slasher who asked us. We didn't have a chance to answer the question though. You know, is this should the ESRB classify this as gambling, right? ESRB said this is not gambling. This is the equivalent of like, you know, if you're a card collector, you buy packs of cards. Sometimes you'll get something you want. Sometimes you won't. You know, so that's how they're classifying it. So ESRB itself.
So it's only gambling if you can win money.
Yeah, something like that. You know.
That's why pachinko gets a pass in Japan. It's a whole idea built around gambling without technically gambling, because you're gambling for prizes, not for money. Like it's a pretty standard idea that, you know, like gambling is only for money. If you win prizes, yeah, okay, whatever, that's not gambling, and so they can skirt around laws that way.
I didn't know that about pachinko. Thank you for dropping that knowledge. I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, it is gambling.
Gambling is illegal.
But it isn't gambling because of a loophole.
Gambling is illegal.
Yeah. Exactly. Also, you know, glad you bring it up, because they said it's not gambling, because if it was actual gambling, all those games would be slapped with the adults only rating, and you know you can't sell those games. You know, so some weird shit going on. Anyway, Brett, since you were talking, what's your thought on this whole loot crate shit?
I understand what Adam's saying. Like there is an incentive there, this kind of dopamine release, and that is a normal thing, but it is also being exploited. And that can be used for good and it can be used for bad. And I think in this case, it's being used for bad. Blizzard kind of pioneered the idea of, you know, this kind of Pavlovian carrot on a stick thing. And then people have just taken it to the darkest possible places. So you get this yay high from unwrapping something. You get this possible dopamine release. If you get this thing that you need, like what you're literally doing is it is pretty much gambling. You're gambling with your brain chemistry and you were gambling with your money. I read a really interesting article talking about how people who were, you know, super into Call of Duty and whatnot, they tested their brains and found out it was kind of a dopamine risk reward kind of thing. And that's where a lot of, you know, real bad gamer rage came from, because basically you put yourself in a high stress situation, which slowly releases minor amounts of cortisol. And then if you win the game or do a good job, your brain rewards you with a little bit of dopamine and endorphins, the way that you do whenever you complete a task and become proud of yourself. The problem then becomes, if you don't complete that task, you don't get that reward. So people will spend hours chasing after this kind of, you know, endorphin rush dopamine high that only happens if they're winning, and that helps to explain some of the toxicity in some of these competitive online games. And this same mechanism, I think, is just being exploited for monetary gain. And I don't really think that's a good thing. Like, whenever advertisers get in your brain, figure out how something works and pull the strings so that you start shelling money out of your wallet, I don't ever think that's a good idea. And my personal beef with this is that it affects a lot of people who want to just play a game normally by artificially extending the playtime and the grinding. This doesn't just work if it's only a reward-based system. You have to actually have a deterrent to stop people from playing the game. So it's not that you're going to want to stop people from playing the game. You're just going to artificially stretch out how long it takes them to complete the game until it's easier for them to just go ahead and spend the money. I mean, if you and you can do the math, like even if somebody has a $10 an hour job, right? After, you know, taxes and everything like that, they got $7. We can make it so that you have to grind for 4 hours minimum to get this $7 worth of stuff, or you can work for an hour, and people will justify that. Like, man, that's 1 hour on the clock, as opposed to 5 to 10 hours of grinding for this thing that I may or may not get. So I don't really know how to put much of a finer point on that. Like, they're going to ruin and water down other gaming in an effort to extend gameplay and force people into buying these things that they want to sell. And the biggest problem with that is then it doesn't become just the territory of the people playing these games, and it doesn't just become like, we'll let people buy microtransactions if they want to. You are now negatively affecting the rest of the population through that behavior, and that is objectively a bad thing.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in on this? I'm going to take that as a no. So
that's going to be interesting to see how it develops. That's all.
Yeah, because it's not. It's not going anywhere anytime soon.
Because I have a feeling that at some games it's going to be a win. And for some other ones, depending on the audience, I don't know why. Did they announce Need for Speed? Is that going to have loot boxes? Because I could easily see them doing
I could see that too, like cars and shit, or
yeah,
parts.
And then that's a different. That's that. It's going to hit a different audience as opposed to Forza because it's more action arcadey.
Yeah.
I could definitely see people. And remember, EA was known for doing this in their other games when they had microtransactions, where it was like, just unlock all the tracks or get the best car and just fly through. So I can see them adding those things, but just in loot crates. I was like, you can get one of many fast cars or whatever in this box. They're all good, but there's only one great one, and I can see people doing that. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how that works. We already know it works in sports. We know it works in FIFA. We know it works in NBA. We know it works in Madden. So it's going to be interesting to see now all these other games, how they work. Because I don't think it's a big deal with Destiny, with the
not really
shading.
No.
Right? A lot of people bitched, but then you don't need it. You know what I mean? It's not needed in the game to progress. You don't need a special shader.
I think it'll be a big deal in Battlefront.
Yeah,
Battlefront's going to be a big deal,
be a big one. But it's one of those the give and take because they said, well, we got rid of season passes. Think about it. You're going to get all the maps. You're going to get all the stuff. Everyone's on the same field now. I mean, they got to make that money somewhere, and this is their way of making that money.
Yeah, exactly.
It's gonna be tricky. It's gonna be tricky.
Shinatsky in the chat brings up an interesting hypothetical here. He goes, imagine this system in Cuphead, paying for random power-ups on the bosses. There would be an incentive to tune the game to be even harder, so people would buy power-ups.
And therein lies something very interesting. A sort of gaming that we used to do back in the day. It's called arcades.
That's right.
What was the main, as much as you had fun playing those games, what were the main focus of what an arcade game was to do? Is to squeeze quarters out of you.
Yeah. Would they call them quarter munchers or something? Because the
exactly.
games, they were made specifically hard so they could take as much money from you as possible.
In fact, you could adjust how hard, and the arcade owners could adjust how hard the game was, so that they could squeeze more quarters out of you.
Speaking of that, on Monday, I went with my daughter. We took her to Chuck E. Cheese, which still is pretty much like an arcade. And they had a Guitar Hero set up. I'm like, I remember I used to play this. I forgot they had them in like arcades. So I'm playing through the song, and I finished the song, and I won, and it still asked me for money. I'm like, I didn't lose. They didn't boo me. Should I keep going? No. You got to pay like $1 or some shit. I'm like, what?
Mm-hmm.
But
so
they're gonna squeeze that money out of you however they can. So
I'm glad you brought it up in that context. You're right. It's like this is just a different version of what they used to do in arcades. It's
the same thing. They're taking what they are. It's sad that it sucks that they're taking advantage of the obsessive nature of people.
Yeah.
Wanting to have all the different things. It totally just goes over that and just like, all right, you have to do this.
It's also another reminder that they are having these meetings, and maybe one of the creators like, oh, look, I made this cool car, and I'm like, that'll be in the loot box. We're not putting that in it. Oh, okay. You know what I mean? It's like how much of it should have been in the game and how much of it is now behind one of these mystery prizes that we're going to have to spend money on. And that's another thing that sucks.
The sad thing is that there has always been a need to exploit people's desire to collect things. This is the first time though that it's really being hardcore monetized. The whole trophy system, alternate outfits, alternate endings, things like that. There was always driven to get the player to play more content of the game. The difference is that now they're putting that content behind a paywall.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. But somebody said that to me on Twitter too. Is like, Tony, what are you gonna do if they start charging you for trophies? I'm like, I'll fucking riot. That's what I'm gonna do. You know, it's like, hey, you want to unlock? Like, okay, I did the thing to get the trophy, but I didn't get the trophy. If you want to unlock it, you got to pay us 50 cents. I'll fucking rage, man. You know,
I think more likely, and I think this is a very real possibility. You'll see the inability to platinum a game without DLC.
Yeah, I could see that. You know. That fool, man, that's fucked up. That would piss me the fuck off, you know?
It's coming.
Yeah, I mean, you can't put it past them anymore. They'll do anything they can to, you know, get money out of you. And the only way it's going to happen is, you know, when the casuals get in on it. It's like, oh, yeah, this is bullshit. You know, we already know what's up, you know?
It'll be in half steps. I guarantee you. Mark my words. Record this bit. Here's what's going to happen. Somebody's going to come out with a game. And there will be a ruckus because people will say, well, it doesn't seem like you can platinum this game. And they'll say, well, you can't platinum this game because it's not the whole game. The rest of the game will be coming out in DLC.
Man.
That's how they'll phrase it to you. They won't tell you that we're hiding the platinum behind a paywall. They'll just tell you that the game without the DLC is not considered complete by the developers. Therefore, you can't get a platinum trophy until you've completed what they consider the whole game.
Yeah, which
We
is
saw that
fucked
with
up.
the Life is Strange 2, remember? The Life is Strange 2 was broken that way.
Well, that's episodic shit, though. That's episodic.
Remember
things.
the platinum, but that was the thing. The platinum was behind the DLC. It was not part of the game. And they said it was by accident because people noticed, like, wait a minute, in order to get the platinum, I have to do this side mission, which is DLC. And they were like,
oh,
wait,
okay, so there you go. It's already happened then.
Yeah, it already happened. So they said that they were going to try to come up with a fix. Because right now, as it stands, if you want to get that platinum, you would have to get the DLC. It's not full game, and they said it was done by mistake. That was not their intention.
So they say, right?
They say.
Very interesting, man. All right, let's move on here. Unless you guys want to jump in on anything real quick.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Rich.
Oh, quick comment to make. Get ready for Anthem, because I know that EA has a 10-year plan for that game. So you best believe they're going to find a way to make people pay to play that.
I can see that happening. All the big games are going to have this from now on. All the big, like, you know, summer game, not fall games are all going to have it. It's going to get crazy, man.
Do you guys remember when Neo Geo games were $200 at Toys R Us? You remember that when you wanted to buy a Neo Geo game, it was $200.
Buy a Neo Geo game because they were $200.
Yeah, but I feel like we're getting to that point now. You know, it's slowly creeping up in other ways with like these.
Well, that's the thing. It's like games cost $60, but there's a little addendum to it. You know what I mean? Season passes and all this other shit. Average game kind of costs $100 now. You know, the big AAA games.
Oh yeah, because there's a standard, there's a special, there's a deluxe, there's a limited, there's a God mode. Who knows what the fuck? They're making all these different versions and tiers. You know, so it's like, oh, which one do you want? I just want the fucking game. Well,
I want the game. You know.
Yeah.
All right, shout out to everybody in the chat right now. Jay Fontarelli, Dio, Shanatsky. Enjoy, man. All right.
I can't wait until they start coming out with cheat editions.
Oh, man.
Let me.
Yeah, go ahead, Brett, and then we'll move on. Go ahead. Finish it off.
I gotta say this. Just a pondering thought out loud because I'm allowed to say this. I wonder if hip hop spends more money on video games or cheating on video games.
Oh shit! It's funny.
Well, I'm sure. Well, you know what? I'm sure it's
man.
I'm sure it's on video on cheating on video games. You remember, it costs $60.
That's what I'm saying. $60 a month. Like I'm wondering, like with like, and he's in a special position because he's getting codes written sent to him. But like, I'd be interested to be like, man, do you spend more money on video games or on like cheat codes for video games?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
He wants to play. So all right.
Yeah. Shout out to Dana. Yeah. There you go, Dana. Oh man, yo. But it's by the way, because what we're referring to is hip hop admitted that he pays for like a service that where he gets cheat codes. He said it on the Morning Gamer.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
whoa.
yeah, I'm not
No,
even dissing on him.
just covering our eyes like, why you guys talking shit? We're not talking shit. He admitted it.
Yeah,
You know?
no. I'm not even dissing on him. I'm just saying, like, hip hop is an example that there is a market for this kind of thing.
Yeah.
There is a if you want to be like who would pay for loot crates, dude, hip hop would. It doesn't make him a bad dude or a terrible gamer. It's just he's saying the shit that most people aren't saying, because let's be honest, like I said before, if you're spending money on workarounds and shit, it's generally probably because you're too busy to grind that shit out.
Yeah.
And thus too busy to complain on the internet.
Yo, Mark says the belt is real life DLC. All right, man, just leave hip hop alone, man. Go ahead, Carlos, and then move on.
I kind of agree and disagree with Brett. I think that there's a culture of instant gratification when it comes to video games. So a lot of people have the time, they just want to skip all the hurdles and get to the final solution or the final stage, I think that has a lot to do with it too. It's like, why spend all this time like grinding for this award or trophy or whatever when you can get it with a click of a button?
And most people are like that. Most people are like that. Like, fuck it, it's $1 or $2, whatever, That's how and then like by the end of the year, they probably would have spent like hundreds of dollars, Little, it's like death by knife cuts, or paper cuts. It's crazy, man.
I think what would really suck, and I could see this happening in some games. Let's say you're playing a certain level and you keep dying. I remember before how I would say, "Oh, change the difficulty. Would you like to lower the difficulty?"
Yeah.
What if they changed it up? And I was like, "Hey, we got this new armor, right? It's just a click away. Costs only $2. Just press this button and you got it." And they'll make it real simple. And I could see people doing that. Get it. Let's say if Zelda Breath of the Wild says, "You know what? You tired of these weapons keep breaking? We got this special one. Just click this button."
Yo, not to get too deep into it, but during our first E3, Manny, we were talking to this guy Travis, right, who used to make mobile games, right, and he broke down the entire thing of how they give you just enough to keep you buying this shit, but not get you too frustrated that you'll move on to another game. There's a whole science behind this shit. It's great. And then when you do buy things, right, they start giving you more and more and more, and then slowly trickle it out so you're not getting anything making you want to buy more shit. It's pretty insidious.
So I have a question, and I kind of touched upon this in the last show and Throwdown your questions. Do you think that competitors will make games free to play on the consoles and just ride with those microtransactions?
What do you mean? Example?
So, for example, let's say Overwatch has a competitor. What was that game that
Battleborn or something?
Battleborn, Paladin.
That one.
What's it? Outlaws or whatever the hell.
Yeah, like there's one that just like got released that didn't do too well. Like let's say like the next time they release.
Battleborn. Paddleland or something like that.
No, what's this?
Let's pick one so we can move the conversation forward.
Lawbreakers. Okay, let's say Lawbreakers is coming up, or Lawbreakers 2, whatever. It's going to compete with Overwatch. So instead, Overwatch is a $60 game, but Lawbreakers 2 is going to be a free-to-play game on the consoles. And they're like, okay, so we know our game is better than Overwatch. We know if people play it, they're going to love it. So we'll release it free to play and make all of our money, which most companies make most of their money from microtransactions anyways. And that's how our game gets funded, or it makes a profit.
That already happened with MMOs.
Yeah, well, there's they do that with freaking MOBAs too. But I'm just saying we haven't seen that in a console like lineup. Like we don't see that many free to play.
Oh no, I'm agreeing that we will though, because you're already seeing like generally something that starts in PC culture eventually trickles down into console culture.
Yeah.
So like I think that you're absolutely right, because it's already happening in other areas. It's just a matter of time until it comes to gaming or console gaming.
Yep.
It's crazy, man. All right, let's move on here to the next topic, which is we're gonna tell you about Shadow of War, our impressions, man. Me and Rich have been playing it for a couple of days. I think they sent us those codes a little bit late. By the way, I was kind of fucked up because for whatever reason, I guess because every big game's coming out on Friday, I thought the game was coming out Friday. So I got the code on Monday, I believe. I'm like, oh shit, I'm ready to go. I'm like, can I even stream this shit? Come to find out, the game came out on Tuesday, like normal games, you know. But Rich, we'll start with you first, man. What do you think of the game so far? You know, from what you've played.
Well, I'll say this right now, starting off, I'm not really sure what the microtransaction controversy is quite yet because I haven't gotten that far in the game. To me, the game is great. You know, I had a chance to play it at PAX West. It's still fun combat, but you know, I must confess that I haven't really dived too much into the story because I've been trying to capture the different areas in the map. And then I would get caught up trying to track down orcs and kill them, all the people in the army. So I haven't gotten far in the story yet, but so far I'm enjoying the game. I don't really have any real complaints. I do want to see what this whole microtransaction controversy is all about, but I'm just not there yet.
Yeah, same thing with me. I haven't gotten far enough for that. Like, you know, I got the gold edition or whatever, so I saw the loot boxes in there and shit, but I haven't gotten too far. Here's the thing. I like the game a lot, you know, because you guys all know, huge fan of the first one, but I will admit, you know, this is the only knock I have of it. It's more of the same, which I guess is a good thing, right? But it's kind of like when you watch the second Avengers movie, right? It's a great movie, but like that luster of the first one, like, because, you know, when you play Shadow of War, like, I've never really played anything like this with the Nemesis system. Now it's like, yeah, I'm used to it, whatever, you know. It's kind of become second rate in that sense. So it's like, it's cool, but I'm still enjoying it. But the thing is, I am getting a little bit too caught up in like, okay, let me clear out the entire map first, then I'll move the story forward. They give you all that shit up front, you know. So it's like, even the first area is like, oh shit, there's a bunch of shit to collect here. Let me do that first, and then I'll move on, you know. But I'm enjoying it, you know. Combat is pretty much the same. If you played the Batman Arkham games, you're gonna be right at home. Also, if you played the last Shadow of Mordor game, you're gonna be right home. I like it, but it does feel like I guess that specialness of the first game isn't there because because the first one did it, you know. But I'm enjoying it right now. But there's not really much more I can say about it because I haven't gotten too deep into it, you know. But I like it, you know. I'm getting distracted by Cuphead though. That's my problem. I'm like, Cuphead, son of a bitch, you know. Because like with Shadow of War, I'm just being honest, you know, since it is a modern game, victory is guaranteed, right? Cuphead ain't like that, bro.
Yeah.
You got to work for Cuphead, boy. Even the easiest boss takes me 45 minutes to beat, you know? This shit is crazy, but Shadow War is good. There's not really much more for me to say either. It's just cool game. But yeah, if that microtransaction shit gets too heavy, you best believe I'm going to be coming back here and giving my thoughts on it, man. Because we can't be having that, you know? Like imagine if this game turns out to be really great, but then this shit happens. It's like, motherfuckers. You know, but we'll see about that. And even some of the newer shit I haven't tried yet. Like apparently you could like command an entire army of orcs and shit. I haven't even done that yet. Right now I'm still doing shit that you would normally do in the first game. Like, you know, it's still fun to like ride on top of those giant fucking Garogs, I think they are, and just smash shit around. But I heard you could also fly one of those fucking dragons. I want to do that shit, you know? So,
the last game revealed itself really slow too, though, didn't it? Like,
I think it did, yeah.
Your full power suite until like 3/4 of the way through the game.
Yeah, so I'm guessing this game's doing some of the same, which is fine, you know? I have no problem with that. What were you going to say, Rich?
Oh, and I was going to say, yeah, the fortress assaults, and that stuff really is the big thing that they added to the game, and I can tell you right now, you know, if you haven't really gotten into that yet, those are absolutely insane. All the stuff that could happen in that. But you definitely need to be prepared for that because it's just nonstop chaos. And the flying drakes are also in that as well. So they can fly into there and cause damage and pretty much try to, you know, fire, you know, basically hurt everybody in their path. So yeah, it's good. But I do agree with what you said. So far, it definitely feels like it's a 1.5. Yeah. All the other stuff is the same. But we'll see if it changes.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, though, I haven't done the Fortress Assault in the game, but I did do it during E3. That shit is crazy. You know, so I'm looking forward to that. You know, also, Rich,
like
as I have
battles.
Yeah. Like basically, you know, you're storming a fortress with your army behind you, and you could like tell them where to go and all this other shit. It's crazy. You know. Also, Rich, as I have you here, have you been playing Forza 7?
I have been playing Forza 7.
All right. You know, I want to hear those thoughts, brother.
So here's the thing. I actually published a review today, but I will say this. Forza is a good game. I mean, they finally added the dynamic weather. So now when you race, like if you're racing outside and it's, maybe it's midday, it'll get dark as the race progresses. They also have the weather where it could just start raining. And then as you're racing, the weather picks up, the rain picks up, the wind picks up, stuff like that. It's a good racing game. However, the loot boxes, it really kills it really kills the experience, because the thing is that you can complete a race, and of course you're earning XP, but the problem is when it comes to getting the cars, because they also have driver gear in this game. So this is how they get you with the mods that you would normally use. They have loots for that, the mods, the driver gear, and the cars. And the thing about the cars is that, you earn XP, you earn credits, but the cars are so expensive. I mean, you have to almost rely on the loot boxes, or as they call prize crates, to actually pretty much get this stuff.
What about the Drivatar system? Because I remember I used that for a long time when I get a bunch of buddies, have that whole Drivatar thing. I slow down around my turns to always do a great job driving, so then that way hopefully I can win some races. And when I come back a few days later, I got all this money. Is that still in the game?
Oh yeah, that's still in the game. What it feels like to me is that, yeah, you still do earn money. Every day that you play the game, and then if you turn it off and you turn it back on the next day, you'll earn money. But the issue was that, the cars they're so expensive. I mean, you can do a couple of races and maybe you can buy maybe one car, maybe two. And then in some cases, when you get a lot of XP, you'll earn a milestone reward. And one of those rewards will be a discount off of a car. But again, the cars are so expensive. It's like you're going to be grinding to try to get every car. And it's over 700 cars in the game.
I also heard two things. One, Toyota's not in the game, right? There's no cars, no Toyotas in there.
That's true. Yep.
That is crazy. And then two, that people that paid for that VIP service got screwed. Something about some certain feature that was in there where they can get like double boost their points or something, and then they removed it and people flipped out. So then I saw that the studio put up some kind of announcement that they're sorry about that, and they were giving VIP people that own the VIP of 1 million coin or dollars, whatever in-game currency, and giving them a few fancy cars or something to compensate for that.
Oh yeah, the VIP system is all messed up. Last time I checked, they said they're going to try and fix some stuff with that. I don't know what they're doing with that, but I will say that the other thing that I find to be a problem with the game is that there are a lot of modes that are not yet functional. Now, I know they have the Forzathon events. That obviously, they have that at different times, but they have the auction house, which you can actually use to buy and sell cars. That isn't available yet. And they have achievements. Well, yeah, achievements for you to actually do stuff in that auction house, but it's not available. They also have multiplayer leagues that they're going to have, but none of that stuff is available, and they haven't updated anybody on when this stuff is coming, which leads me to think, well, they're probably going to save that for when the X comes out, because this title is supposed to be a showcase title for the Xbox One X. So, but again, that whole thing about, with this generation where developers will release a game and they don't have all the stuff in there and they add it later, this is the same thing with Forza 2 now.
Well, I could see them why they didn't put the auction house, because they want everybody to start spending that real world money to get the cars. That's the thing with the auction house, is like sometimes I would just go in there and then see that a certain car costs more in the game, and then somebody's selling cheaper than that because they don't need it. They got a bunch of cars.
That's a good point. Yeah.
So maybe this is just a holdout on their end to just, rack up some money before they go and they start opening up that auction house.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a good point, and I think it's unfortunate for them because the game itself is great. I mean, don't get it twisted. The game is great. Everything about the game is great. The graphics, everything is great, but it's just those practices that really, really makes it disappointing. Because the thing about it is that, like I say, now I did review the Ultimate Edition. That's like the $100 version of the game, and yet you still got to go through all this other stuff with the loot boxes. So it's ridiculous how much money they're trying to get out of people with this game. But it is what it is. We'll see if they learn from their lessons, but I don't think they will, because this has been an issue since the Forza Motorsport 5.
If anything, they're testing the waters. We're seeing it with all these different games. There are all these different genres. They're all testing this loot system and to see what works. If this doesn't work, we probably won't see it next year. We'll see something else.
Yeah, that's a good point. By the way, a quick shout out to Mega Jack, who's in the chat right now. And to quote him, I think all this stuff that's going on with Forza is bullshit. Oh, man.
He's right.
It's crazy, man. All right, actually, Rich, you got a bunch of games we're fucking reviewing now, aren't you? Like Evil Within. I think you're gonna be working on that too.
Well, actually, yeah, Max is reviewing that.
Okay, good. Yeah, because Rich, you got enough on your plate, bro. Shit.
Oh, I have too much. Now I can't really say what I'm reviewing now. I will just say, to give everybody a clue, I will say it is a racing game. That's all I could say, and it's coming out soon. So look for that next week.
F-Zero.
That's all. Yeah, that's all we'll say about that.
We'll say what?
You're barely gonna get to that Mario Kart 8 review, man.
Yeah.
There you go. Yeah. There you go. That's I definitely need to get that done immediately.
Yeah, Rich is actually reviewing the new Need for Speed, man. He I'm fucking around. It's gonna be interesting, man. All right. So next thing here. This shit is crazy. I think it was Mark who sent this to me. I just found out about it today. So apparently, the Russians were trying to use Pokemon Go to inflame racial tensions in America. Whoa, So
really,
yeah. Let me bring this up here. I'm just gonna read it from the article itself because it's pretty nutty. Like I said, I just learned about this tonight, but apparently, let me read this shit. This is from The Verge, by the way. Just so kids hey, where you getting that shit from, man? But I think CNN was actually the first people that reported this shit. Again, I'm just going to read it because I just found out about this tonight. So it goes, Russia's far-ranging campaign to promote dissension in the United States reportedly included an effort to weaponize Pokemon Go. CNN reported today that in July 2016, a Tumblr page linked to Russia's now notorious Internet Research Agency promoted a contest encouraging people sympathetic to the Black Lives Matter movement to play the game near famous sites of police brutality. Players were told to change their characters' names to the victims of those incidents, an apparent effort to inflame racial tensions. Let me just read the rest of it. It's only like 3 quick paragraphs. The Tumblr page was linked to Do Not Shoot Us, a multi-platform campaign designed to mimic aspects of Black Lives Matter. As CNN notes, the name plays on Hands Up, Don't Shoot Us, one of the movement's slogans. Do Not Shoot Us includes a website, donotshootus.us, along with related pages on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. The Facebook page was one of the 470 pages that were removed after the company determined that it was linked to Russian groups attempting to intervene in U.S. politics. This shit is fucking wild, man. What do you guys make of this shit?
Anybody do it though? That sounds like a lot of work.
The thing that's insane thing about that, apparently, you could name your Pokemon in one instance you could name him Eric Gardner, who was murdered by cops and shit. I don't know if anybody did it though. That's a good question. This thing doesn't say anything about that, but the Russians definitely were doing some shady shit during the election. This is part of it, because they know how race relations are in America, so they could try to fuck with us that way, Go ahead, man.
The sad thing about I hate to talk about stuff like this, but a sad thing about it is that it's relatively easy to use people against themselves.
Yes,
especially with how much of our goings on are put onto TV. You know what I mean? Like, you don't even need you could get, if you have a feed from any other country, you'll instantly get American news. And we've seen BBC broadcasts.
Go online. They don't even need TV.
Exactly. You don't need that much to find out what's going on in the United States. But can you really know? Do you even know what's going on in Russia right now? Do you even know? Do any of us know what's going on over there?
Nope.
That's a lot of our country. A lot of countries out there, we don't know what the fuck is going on over there. So they're using our own openness, our own media against us.
Yeah, that's a great point. You know,
and it's not hard to do because it's all out there for everyone to read.
Yeah, it's very easy to get Americans to fight against each other, especially these days. You know, people just need an excuse. You know, and the Russians obviously. Yeah,
it sounds like something the Joker would say. You just need a little push.
That's right. You know,
it's interesting how the tactics were employed and how they worked, though. Just saying.
Yeah, I mean, we're not gonna get too deep into that because I could totally go on into a different tangent here. But yeah, there you go, using our own games against us, man. You know, crazy shit. Anybody else want to jump in on this?
Remember that thing I was sending you that with the people flipping out about the Bethesda and with Wolfenstein and talking about boycotting it because of the promote of hate toward Nazis.
Oh yeah, you know what? Carlos, throw this in there, man. Let's talk about that shit. I did a video on this. Basically, what happened is because the Wolfenstein II that's coming out, one of the slogans they're using is hashtag Make America Nazi Free again, right? Because obviously, the whole world was taken over by Nazis and shit in the last game. So in this one, you're trying to free it and shit. People got pissed off. Certain people got pissed off about that shit. They're saying, "Oh, you're using current political whatever to promote your game," So and then so it's two sides of it. It's like you're making this shit too political, and the other side is like, "Yo, you've always shot fucking Nazis in this game. So why are you beefing?" Very interesting shit. But Adam, since you were talking about it, what do you think about this?
It was the first Wolfenstein was. That's what this is. It was just a continuation of that one. And Trump wasn't president. We weren't having this type of discussion. It was just something there. And then Man in the High Castle. You know what I mean? That was around before any of this shit happened.
Yeah, but let's go back even further. Wasn't it the first Bush was president when Wolfenstein came out? You know what I'm saying? Like 3D and shit.
The Nazis have always been the enemy. I mean, we got soldiers and relatives. Everybody knows somebody's grandfather who went and fought. Everybody knows someone who knows somebody who was part of the Holocaust. There's a lot of Jews out here that fled because of the shit going on there. We know there was problems there. We know these people did some evil shit. But that's why I just don't understand when people are just trying to justify or just try to normalize the whole thing and be like, oh, it's okay. No, they're not that bad. Stupid. It's just really stupid. The whole thing is.
And then the whole thing's like Nazis and zombies are like the perennial video game enemies. Like those are ones we always kill,
Exactly. But now it's an issue. That makes no sense.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think we had this conversation among ourselves after the show on last, throw out your questions. But Rich, get in here, man. What do you think about this craziness? Because I know you're a big fan of Wolfenstein. You're actually the guy that got me into the new Wolfenstein because I was on the fence and you were like, Tony, this game's good. You got to check it out. And I did. It was fucking amazing, But what do you think about this controversy with people, I guess, kind of low-key being Nazi sympathizers,
Oh, I think it's really, really stupid. The whole thing about it is that if you played the first Wolfenstein, as I said, that was one of the best games that I've enjoyed in quite a while. But if you played the first game, the one criticism I had is that I didn't really feel that they did a good enough job to really show you the impact the Nazis made. So obviously,
the reboots. You mean the new ones, the new Wolfenstein, not the first one. You mean the
reboot. So obviously, with this sequel, right off the bat, you get that. If you saw any of the trailers that they had, any of the marketing they had, you get it. Yes, this lets you know the Nazis are invading because of the way that they present it. So I'm looking forward to the game. Now, as far as the people who are too sensitive to the subject matter, I think, again, this is a sign of the times. It feels like everybody they want to try to make an argument these days. And of course, the country is divided. We already know why that is. I'm not going to get into that. But I just think that this is just, again, the sign of the times that people want to find things to be offended about or to argue about. So this is why you're seeing all this stuff now with that reaction. But I'm glad Bethesda just, They just say yes. This is the game they're making, and that's people just have to deal with that.
Yeah, Bray, get in here because you were telling us about why people were mad about this. That they weren't exactly Nazi sympathizers. There's another reason for all this.
Oh, just that whether they, I'm not going to get into whether again they meant to or not, but when they like, for lack of a better word, appropriated Trump's campaign slogan, they made a direct correlation between this game and Trump supporters that didn't necessarily exist before. So there are people who are jumping at shadows, and I don't think that they would have necessarily tied or connected the two dots between this game killing Nazis and Trump supporters unless Bethesda had first connected those dots by, like I said, appropriating the Trump's campaign slogan, which I'm sure can make some of Trump supporters feel like they're under attack or like this game is making a jab directly at them, or at the very worst, if they have no basis in reality, that this game is advocating violence against them. I'm not saying that their line of reasoning is sound. I'm just saying that I understand where they can make the correlation, and it's on Bethesda for starting that.
Yeah, quickly, Matthew in the chat says he says, I'm a Trump supporter and I didn't feel anything negative from Bethesda's side. So, all right, but
it's just a game, and it's just
a game, man. But again, what are you doing? What are you doing? All the games in the series.
You shoot Nazis.
You shoot Nazis. That's it.
Shit, right at the beginning of the new COD, World War II, storming Normandy and stuff. You're killing Nazis.
What about when we had nothing but What about when we had nothing but World War II first-person shooting games?
But let me ask you this though.
Yeah, but
do you guys think that this is an issue of suddenly people having problem with video games where you kill Nazis, or do you think that this is people having a problem with making an association based on word choice?
I think you're right. It is about the association, but at the same time, the people who cry out against it kind of seem like they're Nazi sympathizers, even though they're not.
No. I know, and they're probably totally right wing. Like maybe call me naive. I have trouble believing that this is as simple as just a bunch of people all of a sudden caring about Nazis being shot in video games. Like that sounds too ridiculous, and I feel like there's a lot simpler solution.
Well, think about it like this, Brett. I can guarantee you that most Trump supporters would consider themselves patriotic. So obviously, the direct correlation between that is that they are anti-fascism, anti-Nazism.
Yeah.
So that slogan would fit perfectly. It's the slogan they use for their campaign. It's the slogan they would use for this video game. So I don't see where the correlation is to telling them that they're Nazis or making any type of association. They're just using a phrase or a rally cry from the cultural zeitgeist now, because this, like fake news, is something that permeates through the mainstream culture now, and it's being used by multiple sections of the community, even left or right.
I don't think we're talking about Trump supporters. I think we're talking about the alt-right. Specifically, the alt-right are probably the ones raising a ruckus about this. And the alt-right are, let's be honest, half a degree away from legitimate neo-Nazis. Yeah. So when you make that connection with something that actually deserves it, people tend to get a little riled. If you went out and made an outlandish claim against somebody that had no factual basis, they might just laugh it off and shrug off their shoulder. If you make a claim that hits really close to home, like and this is probably a terrible and tasteless example, but if you called somebody a pedophile or said so, made like a joke to somebody about like, oh, you probably like him young, like sometimes it may it'd be like, well, what the fuck, but the person that would fly off the handle and get really freaked out and upset about that is the person who actually does look at child pictures on the internet. Yeah. Like that's the guy that's going to flip the fuck out. And that's, I think, exactly pretty much what we're seeing is you basically made an association towards, oh yeah, fucking, kill Nazis and make a correlation between them and Trump supporters, and basically throw in the mix that you guys are half a degree away from Nazis anyway, and you get a result of the lady doth protest too much kind of deal, where the alt-right is now like, whoa, they're talking about killing Nazis. Like, well, I mean, yeah, they are, and yeah, you are kind of really close to that, and yeah, I can probably understand why, if you're not that way or being accused of that falsely, why that may make you upset. But I think this whole thing is honestly just a giant case of too close for comfort.
Yeah. By the way, not to sidetrack too much, but because let's just be honest, Nazi sympathizers, white supremacists, all this other shit, they've kind of become emboldened in the last few months. So, Brett, I want to ask you this because you fought these motherfuckers when you were young. So, how does it make you feel knowing that they're getting so emboldened now? Like the guys you used to fuck up, like how does that make you feel?
It's a really complex thing because I to the left of me used to be a wall, and now there's a whole new field that's open up, and maybe it's that I didn't see it before, and I learned about horseshoe politics, or maybe it's become more of an extreme thing. I now count myself as more of a centrist because there are toxic entities on both ends of the spectrum that apply to the idea of the ends justify the means, or in some circles, the right side of history. And I absolutely disagree with that. You didn't like fucking stab a Nazi in a parking lot. Like, you fucking fought him like a man. You didn't send him a syringe full of fucking poison or whatever. Like, the tactics being used by both sides. And now I'll be honest, the tactics being used by the left side a lot of times are pretty horrific, and the things being spouted by the right side have always been pretty horrific. So it makes me mad from both sides, to be really honest. The fact that nobody can, like, we've gone from like trying to steer into the middle of the road to just splitting into two groups and running as far to each direction as possible. I don't think it was a good idea for Bethesda to include a hotbed of political turmoil in a game about killing Nazis. It was a bad idea for them to make that correlation when we practically have Nazis walking around right now. And people paint with broad strokes. So yeah, they could even be like, haha, tongue in cheek, fuck you Nazis, even if they literally meant that and said, we only literally mean that to fuck you Nazis, actual Nazis. There's so many people painting with broad strokes right now, and so many people throwing around insults that somebody's going to get fucking offended by it. It was just a bad idea to put their foot, just to put their nose in this business to fucking begin with. Like, you shouldn't have appropriated a highly charged political slogan and expect and not expected people to flip out when you thought that they were talking about them. That is, while it's an idiotic misunderstanding, it's an understandable misunderstanding. Like, if you know anything about the way that the human brain works or people work in groups, you could have seen this shit coming from a mile away. And I don't know whether to think, either you guys knew and you thought that this would fly, or you didn't know, because corporations are not people and they're incredibly dumb sometimes. Where I really come from, I guess, in the aspect of having fought these guys on the streets, having been an activist, having been butting heads with these people pretty consistently for fucking 20 years, the only thing I could say is to a lot of the people who are coming new to the party is you're doing it wrong. And in doing it wrong, you are eroding the high road that is necessary. Like, this isn't an us versus them thing. This is about trying to make the world a better place, not by exposing your ideas, but by lifting everybody. And part of that includes having dialogue. And the fact that we're shutting that down really, really makes me nervous that it's not going to lead to any good. So even and maybe somebody's going to call me a Nazi sympathizer for this, but you need to learn to talk with your opponents. You need to learn to try and see things from their point of view and then explain to them where the flaw in their thinking is. There was a guy that's really famous for, and I can't believe I'm forgetting his name right now, for pulling a bunch of members out of the KKK. got a ton of people to resign, and he was a black guy, and he would just sit down and talk with them. And
It wasn't Geraldo, because I saw a bunch of his shows, and he had a bunch of craziness happen on his show.
No. This guy is pretty much like, I don't think he does this for a living, but he's made this like his personal calling, and he's invested years into this. He did an AMA on
Vice. He was on Vice, that guy, right? With glasses. He went to a Klan rally.
So. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That is the kind of example that we should be following. The idea of being the better person, turning the other cheek, and yeah, there you go.
Well, it comes down to the
there
game.
Should have been like a rainbow with that.
Yeah, right.
And
that was just random. No,
So
but you're
what-
right about that. It's like, it's like, obviously some of these people are very, set in their ways. You can't get them to change, but there are some that you can change, because let's just be honest, the Nazi ideals, white supremacists, it's flawed thinking, right? If you could actually get somebody to, denounce that shit by giving them logic, right? It can be done, but a lot of people aren't going to
befriending them. Look, there's, and I'm pretty sure I've said this study before. There is a scientific basis for the idea of racism that is expressed through most mammals down to rats. When rats of different colors, when a white rat who has never seen a black rat or a brown rat is exposed, or a speckled rat is exposed to a kind of rat they've never seen before, they react with hostile behavior because it's a new thing to them. They understand that it's part of a different social grouping, and this predisposed hostility continues no matter the amount of exposure, until they made these rats cohabitate. Now, after a couple weeks of cohabitation, all of this predisposed anger and hostility just fucking vanished. And it kind of goes to show you, like, here's the deal. Somebody may have had a bad experience, or somebody may have been told something stupid by somebody who had a bad experience somewhere along the line. The way that you change that is by being the exception to what they are expecting, to show them that the perceptions that they have are wrong. And by doing so, you can honestly change a racist person into a non-racist person. And you are not going to do that by yelling at people or hitting them with bike locks or burning torches in their, or crosses in their front yards.
Exactly. The thing is that nobody inherently thinks that they're evil or doing something wrong. And if you start to treat them like that, that is the moment that everything fails. And that's when the violence escalates.
You're just justifying everything that they're saying.
Exactly. The thing is that, we see all this stuff about attacking other people and, punch Nazis or do all this other stuff. That doesn't do anything to uplift anybody. All that does is bring more violence upon everybody else. What is it? Violence begets violence.
Exactly.
Martin Luther King and Gandhi knew this shit. They knew it needed to stop somewhere.
Exactly. And that's why, and to go full circle, on that note, I don't think Bethesda tapping into this hotbed is doing anybody any good. It's not helping the world at all. They already said that they don't make political commentary in games. It was just a money grab. And that is why they stirred the pot in an effort to make money. That's all that happened. And because of that, I have to condemn the actions. So it may sound like a long, winding road for me to come down to sounding like a Nazi sympathizer, but you know what? My morals and my ethics stay the same. Things shift around me. And in this case, I don't think it was a good idea to stir that pot, because you're not solving any problems except putting more money in your pocket. And when you are creating cultural divides for monetary gain, I have to frown on that 8 days a week.
All right, fair enough. All right, now we're going to switch gears completely.
Just say something like really quickly, as always, because that's what I do.
Yeah, then Brian always, like, I'm ready to move on. Brian's like, hold on, wait, hold up.
One more thing. No,
go ahead, brother.
I pretty much echoed the large majority of what Brett said right there. He pretty much said exactly what I was going to say, which is I don't think that this was a good move by Bethesda. I understand why they did it, because again, it is a very heated political climate. You guys are in. Well, technically, we are. Like, everyone. So anyway, the climate is very political right now, and they jumped on that and to make a buck. Because again, Wolfenstein is coming out this month, I think it is, or next week.
This October 27th, D-Day, when every other game comes out.
Exactly. So they did it purely to boost up their ratings. No, or to boost up their visibility, which is fair enough. They are a business. I will allow them to do that. However, I don't think that this was a very clever move, and there must have been at least 5 people that seen this and said okay. So it's not done by accident. It was done with full intent.
I wonder if this is the dialogue of the game. You know what I mean? Like the game, Wolfenstein has a story, and it's a very political story.
And that's the thing. I don't think so.
If it's already in there. If it is, then that was done before any of this shit happened.
It's just the thing. Like I don't think it is. Like purely because of the timing. Because like to me, I try and look at the timing of when things happen. The fact that it happened so close to the release date, it means that they are trying to gain as much exposure as they can, which is what you do. Like you market the game as best you can, and like no, what was it like? Bad blood? No, was it? There's no such thing as bad blood publicity.
But remember, what was it Deus Ex? What was that one with Deus Ex where they had the banner where it's like
all lives matter?
Remember that? But that was part of the game because in the game there was like some kind of segregation and things going on in it.
But then Deus Ex has only been like skirting the line, so I think that's kind of odd thing. But no, okay, yes, we don't know whether that's in the game or not. If it is, then fair enough. But until someone else can say yes, it is, I'm going to sit here and say I'm very dubious of Bethesda's plans for what they did because I don't think it's a very clever move. And my basis is based on the fact that there are people out there who are not stable in the sense of anything, and it's in a country full of people that can just get guns as they can and then do stupid shit. And I think that in the midst of all this whole punching Nazi and all that and all sorts, it's very leading to people, or it feels like they're making people feel very defensive. And when people get when people get defensive, they tend to attack back, and that's what I'm scared of because it's kind of like, it just feels like it's a bit too much on the nose, in my opinion. They should have made it a bit more tongue in cheek in some way or fashion to like ease the tension. And like that's my issue.
Yeah, but, you could let the audience draw their own parallels. Yeah. It's not a complicated metaphor.
By the way, Brian, you mentioned that you don't know where Bethesda's like what direction they're going. I think Bethesda's direction with Wolfenstein has been the same. It would have been the same in a pre or post Donald Trump era.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't have. They probably wouldn't have used that slogan because it probably wouldn't exist. But it would have been the same game. It would have been the same.
Yeah,
I think what Brian's saying is that, and correct me if I'm wrong, Brian. Not what are the game developers thinking? What are the advertisers thinking? Because the game, from what he was saying, was the game was done. It was finished. It didn't have this stuff in it. And then as it was coming close to release date, the marketing team went, it would be a good idea. Let's connect this to a hot button issue in order to boost sales. So
yep, exactly.
So
we all know what's going on.
What is your marketing team thinking?
We know what's going on because they know this controversy is going to generate more sales. We all know what's happening here. We're not that naive and shit.
Yeah, but the game is as it's always been. I don't think anybody's thinking that the game has a political thing for the most part, and I think that's what Brian was saying, is that most likely this has nothing to do with the game. It was just something cooked up by advertisers, and they knew exactly what they were doing.
Yeah, totally.
It looks like it is part of the game.
Yeah, what were you saying, Rich?
I just had a quick question I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Do you think the lesson from all of this will be that people should separate the games and the entertainment from what's actually going on in the real world? Or
yes.
No.
Oh, you know what? I don't think we actually. You know what? We're still actually good on time. Go ahead. I'll let it go. We got two different answers here.
I say it depends on the history of the game because there have been some games that do tackle political ideals and some that don't. I'll leave it at that.
At the end of the day, video games are art. They're an expression of what the creators are meant to do, and I don't want to limit someone's expressions or art because of this. I don't want. This is kind of like
yeah, but isn't art an agenda called propaganda?
I don't care what it is. I don't want to. I want people to do whatever they want and express themselves however they want. Like if someone wants to like create a right wing game, a left wing game, a centrist game, or what, like with a message, to me it doesn't matter. If it's a shit game, it's a shit game. Like you can do whatever you want. Like I don't want people to feel like they have limits to what they can do whenever they create a game. Like I know
here's a
people.
question, Carlos.
Yeah, go ahead.
What if there's a game that attacks people that have the same political beliefs as you do? Would
Then
you find yourself
Mexican shooting
that
game.
as a game?
Wait, hold on, Brian. Finish your question.
Yeah. What if there's a game that attacked people with the same political alignment as you do? Would you still find that a good game in your eyes, out of interest?
I probably won't, but I won't want someone to feel like they can't do it.
Can I ask an addendum to that question?
Like,
what about if that game specifically called for and glorified violence against a group of people that you were part of?
Yeah, then I'll call out its bigotry, its nonsense, and its foolishness. But it's not like I'll be like, oh, you can't create that game. Like you can do whatever you want. It's like this is supposed to be a free country. Like I'll say that it's bullshit. I won't give it a cent. I'll talk about it. But
I think the big thing that we've been saying for years as video gamers against real world violence is there's a clear and distinct difference between fantasy violence and real world violence. And I don't think you necessarily want to close that gap. I don't think you want to normalize violence or idolize violence against specific real world targets. I think that's already happening. That's why you had like the Anfida bike lot guy or whatever the fuck. Like you have people who feel like they're morally justified, and if you give them the idea that that moral justification is an excuse to visit real violence upon real people, I think that then becomes an issue. You're go ahead.
You're saying you don't want something normalized that goes against your beliefs.
I'm saying I don't think that you should incite. I don't think you should call violence to any real world group.
But we do that anyways.
No, but he's saying you shouldn't do that. Not to get too crazy about this, but like, you know how they say now, oh, punch a Nazi. No, you shouldn't go around punching people in the streets. That's kind of illegal. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, like you know what I'm saying? Like you
shoot
gotta,
Nazis in video games.
Yeah, well, that's different though. It's like, you know, you shoot them in a video game, whatever. You know.
Wait,
whoa! So whoa! So punching someone in real life is the same as killing a digital character?
You're saying in real life. I thought you said if the game slogan was saying "punch a Nazi." I was saying that's what I thought, and that's why I said no. But you shoot Nazis in video games, so that's even worse.
No, it's not.
But I'm saying that I told you I didn't know you were talking about real life.
Okay, yeah, I'm talking about real life because like if you shoot a Nazi in a video game, nothing happens. It's just digital information. You know, it's totally different.
And the reason we have this discussion about Nazis is because they are your proverbial straw man. They participate. They were a group that participated in something so heinous that it almost dehumanizes them. That's why they've been the like zombies and Nazis, because you don't have to feel bad.
Yeah.
Killing either of them. The very premise of that then begs, is there not a flip side to the coin? If you put somebody else in that group who has sympathetic, who isn't universally despised, does the same thing fly? Can you visit the same amount of violence upon, say, a banker or PETA or Muslims that you could against Nazis? It's one of those kind of like, flip the script a little bit.
Just think about it, Brett. You're going to one extreme, right? And yeah, it's making it sound as horrible as possible to make me change my stance. But let's say BioShock Infinite has a political stance. Should BioShock Infinite not exist?
BioShock Infinite creates fictional political parties to parallel real world situations.
So it's political. That was the whole basis of this whole question.
No. Because remember, all I said was I don't agree with inciting violence against real world people. None of the factions in Rapture actually exist. You're not trying to tell people it's okay to kill. Yeah, you're telling people it's okay to kill Andrew Ryan, and that's okay because Andrew Ryan isn't a real fucking person.
You're changing the subject. The whole thing started as, should video games do anything political, or should they have a political stance?
No, I thought the question was, should you be encouraged to incite violence upon real world?
Hell no, we got no. That shit's too detailed, man. I don't
have a problem with games being political. I just have a problem with them connecting the dots to real world political groups, especially if you were enacting violence upon those people in the video game.
But
that's my only stipulation.
Yeah, but the original question is, should games ever get political? And I said the developers should do whatever the hell they want.
Did I just go totally off base? Was the question as simple as that? Because I have no problem with political games. Just when they
should we mold politics with video games? Should that ever be combined? And I said,
Rich, see what you did, man.
Well, I mean, if that's the case, then yeah, absolutely. I mean, BioShock's a perfect example of you should have politics in video games. I just don't think you should have real world politics in video games.
Oh yeah, my fault for that one, Tony.
No, it was actually a good conversation. you guys kind of got a little bit of a taste of the kind of shit we talk about after the show, you know. All right, let's move on here, unless Brian has any other thoughts. Oh man! All right, completely changing the subject right now, right? So a report was put out by Game Industry Biz that says that Nintendo shares are at a 10-year high. You know, so I asked Chris to do his chart thing. You know, look at the numbers and shit, and tell us what this is all about. You know, why is this so high now?
All right, so
oh, Chris, you sound mad low, bro. So bump up your volume if you can.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you. It's just very low, very low.
Hello, how about now?
There we go. That's better. Okay,
so I looked at the stock chart for the last 20 years. What I have here is the last 15 years of stock value for Nintendo's trading on the Nikkei. And so the original articles from GameIndustry.biz, they said Nintendo shares hit 10-year high. Okay, so while the shares are going up, this statement is inaccurate. And I'll tell you why. So it's actually less than a 9-year high on the downslide of the Wii, which peaked in December of 2007. Their stock price has never been higher than that point in their history, as far as I could tell. I could only go back 20 years, but I can't find a peak higher than the price they were trading at the Wii, which I believe was 78.41 was the high then. That's the peak. That's where the stock peaked that year. It has never been higher than that point in their history, as far as I could tell. So if you're saying 10 years, right, it would be in this range. Like I said, it has never been higher than this point in its history. So saying it's at a 10-year high is bullshit. Here we are in October 2017. See, the high this month was 49.16, right? 10 years ago, if you had inflation, that stock price is even higher. So there's no way that the statement is true. And they had a high trading volume this month, and this month's not over. So if you account for trading volume, so it's a high trading volume month. It's certainly not anywhere near the trading volume that they've had in the past, especially during the halcyon days of the Wii. I mean, I could go over there. Here's in 2008, their volume share trading is almost 500,000. There's times it's gone over 1 million per month. So this article kind of went into exaggeration, and I try to call this stuff out. I'm not saying anything about the writer and stuff, but this kind of exaggeration needs to be called out, because you paint an inaccurate picture of how things are doing, and then like a game of telephone, it starts repeating. So other news outlets pick this up, other game outlets, and they start saying the same thing. Stocks at a 10-year high. we told you the Switch was a success, and then this message starts expanding and starts barreling out of control. So, okay, so when has the stock been at this point at high in history? So we have to go back to around late 2008, I think, or not even. When did it crash? Yeah, around like January 2009. So you're talking early 2009. The stock was slipping to about this price point, right? So that's a little over 8 years ago, and that's when you can make the comparison. So you could say the stock has hit an 8-year high, right? When it was going low, as the Wii was closing out, and investors were not seeing any uh, further investment. They weren't seeing the booming sales, so they started selling off the stock really, really fast. Um, so there's two pieces of BS that made up this story. So the first was the 10-year high thing, and the statement, it says Nintendo shares are now trading at their highest since March 2008. I just showed you that's not true either. It was actually January 2009 that the stock was at this value. And also this statement where it says the Switch, which is already Nintendo's fastest selling console, is expected to sell 20 million units by the end of the year. Okay, so I went and looked at DigiTimes. I'm like, that's interesting. And there it says Nintendo ups Switch supply to 2 million a month. And here's my problem is this statement. Nintendo Switch will sell 2 million a month because of the not this part. The vendor is expected to be able to achieve its annual shipment target of 20 million units for 2017. That is complete bullshit because that was never said. What was said was they were going to sell 10 million units by the end of their fiscal year 2017, which ends at the end of March next year. That was the statement. They never said they were going to sell 20 million units or ship 20 million units. That number was never said before this point. So I don't know where they got this number, right? And they even say in the article, like, this is the last reported number by Nintendo. By the end of June 2017, Nintendo had sold 4.7 million Switches. So how do you expect to move another 15 million? If after launch, you really need solid launches to keep up this demand. And they said they were going to make 10 million by next March, but yet somehow they're going to ship 20 million by December, right? So this narrative has gone off the rails, and all this does is set up this stock to crash hard when they can't meet this, right? So this is put out there in the market. Investors get excited. They start buying up stocks. So you're going to watch it very carefully. You're going to watch the stock climb as they anticipate. They're shipping huge numbers. B, it's going to launch in Taiwan in January, and at some point, I guess maybe after the end of this fiscal year, it's going to start selling in China. So that's what investors are getting excited for. So here's the problem with this. This narrative isn't true. So when this starts unraveling, you're going to see the stock tumble back down in value. And stock is nothing to celebrate because this is not affecting us as consumers, right? This is private investments, shareholders. Like, we don't have any stake in this. This is not a customer facing thing. So it's not something to brag about that this is like um this is great for Nintendo. They have never had a time in their stock history where the value was higher than after the launch of the Wii, just a year after. So the Wii launched November 2006. By November 2007, their stock climbed by something like 450% or 500%. It was trading at almost 70 or 72 per share.
Hey, Chris.
Yeah.
Can you switch back to the stock thing for me?
Graph?
Yeah. I want to actually because I can already hear like some people's heads exploding. I want to switch the narrative just a little bit too, since you've already moved into this. Okay, so setting aside the bullshit of what this article implies and stock manipulation, from what you're looking at right here, what can you judge about the health and viability of both the system and the company? like, since we already know that they're wrong, can you tell us what we're actually looking at and what is pertinent information here and what it means to us?
Oh, okay. Well, what this means nothing to us, right? That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm just seeing a lot of bragging going on after this article was published by other game outlets. Like, this somehow is showing that Nintendo is making a ton of money. This stock value is part of their revenue stream, but this has nothing to do with cash and assets. Stocks, bonds, and other securities are not the same thing as having cash assets, which come from us buying the games and the systems, right? That's where a company gets its health from. That's how it pays for things. So
So
these
this is just a measure of the market's faith in the company, basically.
yeah, exactly. And the market is not a reflection of consumers, because I doubt many of these shareholders are playing video games, right? And buying into the company. They're buying shares, right, to have a stake in the company, right? But they're not participating actively at the level that we participate by buying the systems and the games. So what you see here, right, is not a reflection of anything, because if you look at this graph, like I can show you here, right here where I'm circling between the end of 2011 and then to the to right here, this line here, I don't know, this is Pokemon Go. You look at this and then it slams back down. But right here, this pit is the Wii U, right? Nintendo chugged along through this and survived. So this doesn't mean anything. And right here before the Wii peak, you see this valley way over here between 2000
Is
and
it the GameCube?
2006. This is the GameCube. This is the
Jesus.
lowest point this stock has ever been, was during the GameCube days. Here's the pit right here, 2003. We are smack in GameCube territory. This is the lowest point the stock has ever been. Nintendo still managed to get through here, because here's the thing that most of the company's viability is not in open trading. It's in its IP and value and revenue it can generate from that. That's where most of that comes from. So looking at this is not anything to brag about or anything to uh, go, okay, this is doom and gloom. Holy shit, the stock is crashing. It certainly is concerning for people, because if there's no investors, then the problems could spiral where the company has problem getting loans, other stuff, other assets start devaluing, their security and bonds start devaluing, and then it becomes a problem when that taps into their revenue stream and they have to start paying exorbitant taxes and whatever, and then that affects the health of the company. So a stock crash would certainly be concerning in that respect once it hits that point, right? But for right now, this is not anything to either brag about or cry about, you know? That's all I'm saying. But what I am calling out is people have to understand these numbers and report things accurately. You could say 8-year high, don't say a 10-year high. There's a big difference in the stock value 10 years ago to right now. There's a tremendous difference.
They were just rounding, Chris.
Yes, but I hate that. That's completely accurate. And they know most people won't look into it. They're like, oh yeah, just Nintendo Switch. I was there 10 years ago, right? They were riding high on the hog, and this stock reflects that the tremendous sales of the Wii. This is why investors were pouring money into them. You know, the DS was out at the same time. The DS is the best-selling system they ever made, and the Wii was selling like hotcakes. You know, so they were doing well, and investors were pouring money into them. There's no way that this moment now matches that moment then on any level, right? Not even you say like, okay, the Switch is selling well, not nearly as well as the Wii was selling, not close. So this kind of reporting is sensationalized. It's based on another falsehood, which is and Brett explained this before, this is not a cartoon where you could pull a lever and make more units. So this is based on a statement from anonymous sources, an ambiguous statement from Nintendo marketing saying they're going to ramp up production, which is, I say, nearly impossible since the supply shortages in China have not changed. They've only gotten worse. And, so, and then hitting a goal of 20 million, I don't know where they came up with this number. Another guy, another analyst in this article, I think, called this out too. He says it right here. It's the only comment in the the Game Industry Biz article. And he said the latest sell-through estimates is September between 5 and 6 million globally. So that means they're a very long way to go in 3 months to achieve 20 million, right? And that's perfectly logical. That's what I said. So,
but it was originally 10 million, right?
It was originally 10 million, and not for the end of this calendar year, the end of the fiscal year in March. So
Do you think they have a chance of hitting that goal?
No. I said that. I said that already, and you guys can start getting angry, but a better source than me said this. This came out of Kimishima's mouth himself when he talked to Nikkei Press 2 weeks after I read the financial paper on here, and I made the prediction that they were going to make 10 million by the end of the fiscal year. He came out and said it himself, and you could go out and check it yourself. Go find the interview with him. I don't have the link here, but he said it himself that he was concerned they won't make 10 million by the end of their fiscal year. What has changed since then? Nothing. They can push out the same amount of systems. They can't. I doubt they can ramp up production, not without incurring tremendous costs to buy the current short supply of NAND and DRAM that they need, which is currently being hogged up by Apple and Samsung and other companies who are buying it out. Google, for their phones and tablets and whatnot. It's a short supply shared by many large companies, and the price just keeps going up. So unless Nintendo's willing to pay more money to get that supply in order to produce more systems, they can't logically increase production. I don't see how.
I mean, they may be looking at a redesign with different parts.
That is possible. I mean,
but that's when they say they're upping production. That's not what they're talking about. I'm saying that's probably in the pipeline right now, and we may see something in a year or two. But yeah, they can't just up production. But I just thought that was a good time to throw in there. Like, we'll see a new version of the Switch that doesn't use some of these parts, I think.
Yeah, that's entirely possible. The problem is with this kind of reporting, so it starts here, and it snowballs with some falsehood that comes from anonymous sources in the supply chain, and then it comes to here, and then this gets rounded up, and then it blasts to other game publications who start celebrating and popping champagne like this is some sort of celebration that Nintendo is doing fantastic. This is nothing like what this is. All this is shareholders and stockholders are very reactive people. If there's good news coming from a company, they seek to make money, so they put money into it in order to get a good return on investment. So all markets are reactive. The minute Pokemon Go came out and it started getting millions and millions of downloads, their stock started skyrocketing. Then they came out 3 days later and said they only own a third of it, and they had no direct involvement in Pokemon Go. And Tony reported their stock started plummeting. And if the Nikkei didn't have breaks, who knows how low it would have gone. It can only drop 20% per day before it kicks in.
Yeah, 18% per day, and it dropped to 17% that day. So that lets you know someone's going. By the way, since I'm talking, I want to give a quick shout out to, and I'm gonna butcher your name here because it's a little crazy, but OESD Western. He sponsored us on YouTube. Very cool, man. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, listen, they may be cutting off our funds on the ad tips, but you guys keep us going, man. Thank you so much. Anyway, continue. And by the way, Chris, as always, man, I'm blown away by this shit, man. But again, it's just funny to me how all these sites ran with this shit and nobody bothered to do the simple shit you're doing. You're not paid to do this shit. You're not like an actual reporter like them. Yet you're doing way more fucking work than these guys. And I asked you for this today and you had it ready in a couple of hours. So I'm like, why didn't these guys put that same amount of effort into it?
Yeah, no, this wasn't hard. I went to the NASDAQ, right? And the NASDAQ lets you download volume trading shares and whatnot. So this is where I got this Excel sheet from. And other sites like barchart.com, they make great graphs. So all I have to do is plug in Nintendo and what I want and the study level and whatnot, and you get that nice bar graph there. So here's today, right? The article is written on the 9th. It was published on the 9th. So that's what they were trading at, right? So if you go 10 years, which is really easy, just go to the earliest point I can, which is October 12th of 2007. 72.55. That's the share price 10 years ago. And this was the trading volume that month. Almost
Wow.
300K, 296K, right? Let me scroll back up. Here's 2000 today, 2012. 48.32. That's the share price. There's the volume. Does anybody see a problem with that?
Yeah.
That doesn't look like a 10-year high to me, right? And this is being accurate. I'm taking you literally. Like if you print 10 years, then it better be 10 years, not 8 years, not 9 years, 5 months, not 9 years and 11 days. Like this better be freaking 10 years, right? That's what I'm looking at. So I'm calling out the accuracy. I'm not insulting the writer, but be accurate with your description. You exaggerate, I'm going to call you out on that bullshit.
Yeah, there you go. This is why we love having you on here, man. Talk about this shit. Thank you for that. Anybody else want to jump in on that?
I just want to reiterate, this is just a monetary manifestation of hype. Like, everybody's very aware of what hype is. Like, just put a $sign on hype and you pretty much have an idea of how the stock market and stocks work. Like, so when Chris is talking about why this isn't relevant, it's because this is just a monetary manifestation of hype. You can put out an intense ad campaign or do political PR moves or actually sell a lot of systems. There's lots of things that you can do that add to hype, but the hype itself is a symptom of other things that is often clouded and doesn't give you a very clear picture. A good example of this is we give you the MPDs, right? And stock traders look at those to help determine what stocks to buy and sell. So we're literally giving you the information that then leads to this information, which is essentially just hype. So we're giving you the essential precursor information. Don't look at what other people have done with that information and then think that that's where the actual information lies. Does that make enough sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know some people could get mad, but understand it like this. Take what Brett said, and let's say I'm wrong, and the Switch sells like phenomenal. Let's say they hit 20 million by the. Okay, let's take the hypothetical that this thing. I think they're wrong, but let's say it sells 20 million by the end of the year, right? And the stock prices start shooting up. You know what would send that stock price down? If everybody in Kyoto got Legionnaire's disease right now. That, like I said, it's a reactive market. If Kimishima had bloody diarrhea, it would send the stock prices plummeting because this man might die. Like all these other factors that affected outside of us supporting the company would cause a stock to tumble, right? But these are not things we can control, right? If Japan was struck by an earthquake or whatever, like all these things are not cannot be affected by our supporting or not supporting the system, will affect the stock prices. So don't look at this thing as a measure of anything that is that we should really pay attention to. That's what I'm saying.
You want to know how backwards this is? A company can have their stock price drop after producing record-breaking profits for that year, for the sole reason that they didn't make as much excess of money as they thought that they did. You could come out and say, I made $90 million last year. I am aiming to make $200 million this year. You could make $150 million, which is significantly more money than you made last year, with a way higher profit, and you would still have stockholders drop the stock and say, well, you projected 200 million, you didn't hit that mark. That's a sign of weak leadership. So all of these weird factors can come in and have a highly successful company actually drop in stock value because they just weren't as profitable as somebody had gambled on them being. So that should show you a real world discrepancy between actual health of a company and their stock prices.
Yep, pretty much, man. All right, and the last thing, we're gonna do some little bit fun here since we do have time. Mostly,
Does
man.
the show just work?
What happened?
So, what, does the rest of that show just work? Fuck you.
No. I'm gonna, yeah, but basically, I'm gonna do a little bit of it, obviously. But Manny is gonna regale us with some New York Comic Con stories.
Comic-Con stories.
So how was your con, man?
It was actually really good. I mean, they moved the artist alley from where it used to be. It actually used to be on toward the uptown side of the of the comic convention. So when you enter the comic show, it was actually a really long walk to get to the artist alley. So now what they did is they put the artist alley literally by the main entrance to the interior part of the comic convention. So it's incredibly easy for people to go to. We're literally right next to the DC booth, which is awesome. So I mean, it was really cool stuff. Like I met a lot of people. I met some folks from the show. You met him as well.
Yeah, my man Himdeal. Got to meet him.
Mr. Himdeal. I actually asked him one question that I was always wanted to know about his screen name. That is based on the game Himdall or Himdall. You remember the game, Adam? You remember that game?
Yeah,
we played it on Sega CD. Yep. And that the reason why we got to that point is because he was talking about his Sega CD and he was saying that it didn't work and that one of his kids pretty much ruined it by pulling the drawer open. He was telling me he keeps all his older consoles away from his kids and stuff. So one of the fun stories is this is a guy who met me last year, and he bought my Solid Zero Metal Gear themed art book. So this year, he's a fan of my work. He's like, "Hey, so do you got anything new?" And I told him what it was, and then he's like, talking to me, and I'm like, he started talking about being a sketch artist. I was like, "Oh wow, I didn't know you were a sketch artist." And he's like, "Yeah, in New York State, there are only 3 sketch artists for the whole. I mean, not New York State, New York City. There are only 3 sketch artists for the whole city, and they do pretty much anything that you've seen, like wanted posters. They'll do like in court, like
when they're looking for like
when they can, or in reconstructions, like so, if a person's like face is all screwed up. Like they try to create a poster or something like that from from what they originally looked before they died. Anyway, I got this from him. If you can see, this is a coin. This coin is essentially every single part of the NYPD gets these coins, and he actually designed this one, so it's actually pretty cool. It's a guy jumping out of a criminal jumping out of a wanted poster. On the back, he has a little NYPD thing there. So, and it says on there, they see evil, I draw it. So that's one of the things that we did there. I also got visited by Ruby Taki. If you guys don't know who Ruby Taki is, she is pretty much a cosplayer who doesn't like to do the usual cosplayer stuff. She pretty much will dress up. She won't dress up as like, I don't know, sexy something, right? She'll dress up as she'll be like, I want to be a Metal Gear. So that was one year. She was literally a Metal Gear. Another year she was Anubis from Zone of Enders. Another year before that, she was the dog. Blade Dog from Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance. So yeah, she came by and she had 2 friends from Japan who are like pretty awesome cosplayers. I even got their card. We did the good old fashioned, handing cards to each other. One of them I'm showing here is Umi. So she's really good at she does Meryl and all kinds of other really awesome costumes. And then we have Dan, who's another one who does, if you can see it here, he's does Solid Snake cosplay. So yeah, they stopped by my table and they were dressed like spot on Solid Snake and Meryl, and I took a really nice photo of them. They throughout the show, each day they were a different Metal Gear character set. So they were Quiet and Venom Snake. They were Solid Snake and Meryl, and then they also dropped by and they were dressed up as Kick-Ass and Hit Girl, so which was pretty fun. Let's see what else we got. Yeah, I mean, like seriously, it's always awesome going to the show and seeing the folks out there. I mean, I always say this: it's part of part of the great thing about doing Comic-Con or social shows like that, like even anime conventions. It's good to meet the people that are interacting with your work. It's one thing when you hear, you'll hear from the thing like, hey, yeah, the book is doing really good, and keep going, we love it, and then the fans love it. It's like, okay, good to know, but it's another thing to actually have a person come over to you and say, I really enjoy your work, or I really like what you did here. Let's see what else. I also got interviewed by the Fan Bro. Me and Kari got interviewed by the Fan Bros. If you guys remember those guys, we appeared on their show a long time ago, and we had some fun conversations at the show. And again, it's really awesome to go one of those shows and meet everybody. So yeah, that's my New York Comic Con.
Nice. I always say New York Comic Con is like the easiest con for me because I don't have to fly anywhere. I don't have to book a hotel, and I don't have to do. Whoa, Brett, you're right there. What the fuck?
Sorry.
All right. Yeah, it's like I'm trying to tell someone shit. Anyway, so I don't have, and I also don't have to do too much work because I'm there covering video games. Not a lot of video games at Comic Con, right? Even though they had a little bit more this year. So my Comic Con actually started on Tuesday. I had to go into the city and I played this like new game. It's actually for a Switch. It's called like Battle Chef Brigade. It's an Adult Swim game. Very interesting game. It's a mix of it's a fucking brawler / Link 3 pieces puzzle game and RPG. Like when I went in there, I'm like, it's probably not going to be all that, but the game was really good. It's coming. I Switch first, PC, and then maybe the other consoles later. So I played that. Then on Wednesday, I went to the Square Enix, thing they always have, and I got to play Tomb Raider on Xbox One X. I did my write up on geek.com. Here's the thing. Again, it looks nice and all, but if you don't have a 4K TV, you're probably not going to get too much out of it, but it looks nice, I also played Secret of Mana, the remake. I liked it. I never played Secret of Mana, so it was kind of cool, but the voice acting was pretty bad. I'm just being honest. And then I went to the cocktail party afterwards and shit. I got to talk to a bunch of my friends, and they gave me their thoughts on the whole bullshit that happened to me the week before that with those Nintendo assholes coming after me. And then Thursday, I went in there. I went to Capcom. I got to play Monster Hunter. Monster Hunter is really good. I've never liked Monster Hunter. I always thought the series was trash. This shit is legit. I'm definitely looking forward to playing that. I also played Marvel vs. Capcom Infinite. They got some new characters coming. I played as Black Panther, Monster Hunter, and Sigma. And there's another character. I think it's Venom, but I didn't get to play as him. So that was cool. And then, here's the thing. I think because I've been to these Comic Cons like 12 years now, so I don't really stay too long now. Like I was home at 8 every single night. I'm like, because there's no parties going on or anything like that. But the coolest thing that happened, let me see if I can pull this up on my phone. This shit was crazy. So on Saturday, it was my fucking day. I had absolutely no appointments at all. So I found my man George Jimenez, who we had on Throwdown ages ago, and who we're probably gonna have again soon. We were like,
it's always great to see. It's great to see him. He's got a lot of energy.
Yeah. Like I always say, George, to me, he's the Dominican version of Brett, because they both kind of talk the same. They kind of have the same kind of energy. And also Brett is the Irish version of George. It's very weird, So anyway, so we're walking around and shit, cause that was my first day on the actual show floor. Before that, I was just kind of hanging out in the press lounge after my appointments. So we're walking around because because I ran into Yoshinori Ono. He actually had a booth, right? In like the kind of downtown part of the convention. So I'm like, hey, let's go see Yoshinori Ono, right? We're walking around and we bumped into Greg Capullo, right? If you guys don't know who Greg Capullo is, here's the picture, by the way. Actually, it's coming out pretty good. There's me, there's Greg, and there's my man George, You see the BLS shirt, So Greg Capullo, he currently draws, or he did the long run of Batman, right? You know, with Scott Snyder, that's what everybody kind of knows him for. Me and Manny, we remember this guy from X-Force and especially Spawn. He took over Todd McFarlane, right? We've been a big fan of this guy forever. I remember his, like, in Wizard Magazine, he used to, like, do a thing where he teaches you how to draw shit, right? Cool dude. He's a big metalhead, too, you know? I only got to talk to him for, like, a couple seconds, but he was really cool. He took a picture with us and stuff. That was highlight. After that shit, me and George were like, that's Comic-Con for us. We went right back to the press room. We're like, that's it. We can't top this shit. You know,
I didn't meet any superstar. Oh wait, no, I did meet somebody, a pretty famous person on the way out, going back home. I met Quentin Flynn, the voice of Raiden. He was just hanging out, like talking to some very pretty lady, and I was like, you know, I'm like, excuse me, and I was like, it's great to meet you. I'm a fan of your work, and I went about my way.
That's pretty cool. You actually like knew what he looked like. I don't even know what the fuck he looks like.
I've seen a lot of interviews with him, so I kind of know what he looks like. I've been, you know, Chris knows this. Like, I'm usually, whenever we're walking around, I'm like, oh hey, that's that dude, and you're like, oh really? Yeah. So that I usually watch lots of interviews with people that do things that I enjoy.
Yeah, so yeah, that was pretty, you know, it was a good comment. I know there was this one guy in the press room, he was complaining. He was like, man, this is the worst Comic-Con ever. I'm like, it was a standard Comic-Con. There was nothing horrible about it. I appreciated the fact that Artist Alley was right downstairs and stuff, because usually every year for the last couple of years, I would visit Manny one time during that entire weekend, because you had to go through a troop just to get to Comic-Con. But now, you know, I would just go down there, talk to him and Kari for a little bit, you know. By the way, funny story for you guys, right? So, okay, so on Wednesday after the Square Enix event, right, because the convention's right there, I was like, let me see if they'll let me in. You know, maybe my press badge will get me in, because the convention hadn't officially started yet, right? So I go in there, and they're still building everything, right? And I was like, hey, I'll go in there with Manny, hang out with him and Kari and Mark and stuff. So we go downstairs, and security's there, right? And I show her my badge. She's like, that's the wrong badge. You can't be in here with that badge. I'm like, shit, I guess I can't hang out. So I go back upstairs. I'm like, I'll wait for you guys up there, right? Maybe 10 minutes later, Kari shows up, and he's like, yo, I got you a badge. I'm like, dude, she's going to know it's me, bro. It's like, dude, don't even worry about it. Just come on. We go down there, same girl, right? Same homegirl. She's there. So I'm like, so I pull out the exhibitor pass. She's like, that's the correct badge. Go ahead. And she gave me a wink, too. I'm like, all right. And then, so I get to the table, you know, me and Kari talking. He's telling me about all that bullshit. Kari, he kept it real. He's like, Tony, man, your days of clowning dudes on Twitter are over. You're like, yeah, he's kind of right. I can't do that shit anymore because I'm professional. There's a fucking target on my head now. So we're talking and stuff. And then out of nowhere, Kari just goes, hey, Tony, man, what do you think of Destiny, right? So I told him, I'm like, this is okay. And I'm like, okay. I'm like, I thought the first Destiny 1 was okay, but then it got repetitive.
Mind you, I also had a very big smile on my face because of what happened.
So,
you know, because of this question and what led to that question.
Yeah. So he's asking me about Destiny. I'm like, what the fuck is Kari asking me about Destiny? And then he's like, I don't know, man. I think that game is trash. I'm like, you think it's trash? You love fucking Destiny, bro. What are you talking about? And then he's like, hey, I want you to meet somebody. So I turn around, it's this big dude there with massive beard. Turns out my man, you know, and we've talked about him before. He worked on the original Destiny. Kari was trying to get me to talk shit about Destiny, but I didn't because I like Destiny 2 so much, you know? So, you know, I talked to him and stuff. Yeah, tell us about this guy, man.
He actually worked on, he did all the flavor text for the weaponry in the Destiny games. And I've been trying to get him onto the show for a while. Just the opportunity hasn't shown up and stuff like that. He's an awesome artist, and you know, he just, you know, like writer and stuff. He used to work for Todd McFarlane. How Kari knows him is he wrote Animated Spawn, the comic book that from years ago that Kari did. Remember?
Wow, yeah, I remember that shit. Yeah.
So that's how we knew him. So he went from Todd McFarlane to video games and stuff like that. And he's even done stuff. He's done some stuff for Halo. He's currently working on another game we can't talk about.
Hush, hush. By the way, we also saw our boy Barry Burton. I don't know if you want me to say your real name, so I'm not going to do it.
I don't think we need to say his real name.
So we bumped into him. Also, I was just asked in the chat, what did I think of the Mortal Kombat panel? This shit is funny, right? Okay, so on Friday, I had an appointment like at 11. So by 12, I was done. I'm like, I'm gonna go meet my boy, Manny, with the sound effects.
Sorry, that's just me like trying to find a folder.
Yeah. So I was like, let me go meet my boy Jeffrey. We went to this it was like a beer hall, right? A German beer hall called Rickenbacker Hall, right? Fine ass women in there, you know. So we're there, and we were talking about Mortal Kombat because he knew I had the appointment on Sunday. I'm like, yo, what the fuck ever happened to John Tobias, bro? And we were like speculating, like, where is this man? So I went to the Mortal Kombat panel on Sunday, and they had the original 4 guys that, you know, they were like, oh, it was Jeff Keighley too in Jerusalem. Like, we have the original 4 creators of Mortal Kombat. I'm like, wait. Are they going to have John Tobias? Sure enough, there's John Tobias. And yo, that was a good panel. They broke down all that shit. I'm like, think about it. Mortal Kombat, one of the most historic, legendary games of all time. 4 dudes made that fucking game, man. It's crazy. And then for Mortal Kombat 2, 5 guys made that game. You know, it just goes to show you how things have changed. And they were talking about how, you know, they record everything on video and all that, how they had to like take out a bunch of animations and stuff to make it fit. You know, it was really cool. And then they talked about the whole thing with it was because of Mortal Kombat, you know, that the ESRB exists. You know, people were like, what the fuck? But they were just trying to just, you know, because they were big fans of Street Fighter. So it was like, how do we make our version of the game but crazier, you know? But even with fatalities, this is how they explained it, because they said that, you know, in Street Fighter, they always liked it when characters got dizzy and they started, you know, going like that. They're like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you could do something extra to them? So it's like, okay, how about we take that dizzy? Because if you play Mortal Kombat, you can't actually dizzy somebody. Not really. You can only do that at the very end, right? And they were like, we should do something here. And somebody said, hey, why don't you rip their heart out? And that's how all that craziness started. And apparently Sonya, she was one of the last characters thrown in there because they tested the game in Chicago, right? And, you know, somebody said, hey, you should probably throw a female in there too, just to even it all out, you know? So pretty cool. That's how, you know, that was a good fucking panel, man. Very, you know, exciting and stuff. And I talked to Jeff Keighley a little bit and stuff. You know, he's always a pretty gracious guy, you know? So yeah, that was my It was a very good Comic-Con, you know? I had a lot of fun, you know? I didn't spend any money this year though. I kind of like, because the thing is, they had the Comic-Con like on the 2nd or whatever. I'm like, I get paid on the 15th, bro. Come on, man. But yeah, you know, we want to tell you guys some Comic-Con stuff because, you know, we kind of want to talk about it on Sunday, but it's not really appropriate to talk about that kind of stuff on the question show, you know? So yeah, that's gonna pretty much do it for us. Rich, man, I want to thank you for joining us tonight, man. Hope you had fun on Throwdown and all that, you know?
Oh yes, thank you very much. Very very awesome time, and also thank you guys for talking about that because now I know I need to get to Comic-Con next year. It's a mandatory trip that has to happen.
Yeah, we'll have fun, man. So yeah, just let people know what's going on with the coalition in the next couple of weeks. What's the site gonna be doing, man?
All right, so as everybody already knows, it is that time of the year, so we're gonna be very busy over the next couple of weeks, covering a lot of the big games. We're going to probably be doing some more giveaways, so you definitely want to stay tuned to the website for more information. But hey, this is a great time of the year. It's just a very busy schedule.
Yeah, so, right. For us, it's definitely busy, you know. But for gamers too, in general, it's like balancing how to play all this shit. It's crazy, man. You know, but it's a good time. It's a great way to end.
For the first time in years, I have to decide like what games do I want to spend my money on.
It's crazy, man. It's nuts. Like the year is gonna end as strongly as it began, which is a great thing, you know. So good shit, man. All right, so that's gonna be it for us. So thank you for watching and listening. Subscribe to Throwdown on SoundCloud, iTunes, and YouTube. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, and Mixer at Throwdown Show. Links are located in the description below. Once again, our show host, Tony Polanco. And tonight I was joined by Emilio Lopez.
I'll see you later, guys. And don't forget, if you're going to be in the New York City area, I'm going to be back on the con circuit. I'm going to be at Anime New York doing my thing. So if you're going to that show, yeah, come by and say hello.
Cool. Chris Seeley.
Hey, take care, everyone.
Carlos Romero.
Lots of good anime this season. Get caught up on that shit.
Brian Manjoma.
Don't watch Agents of Shield. It's not that good anymore.
Oh shit. Adam Vale.
Tomorrow's Friday 13th, and check out the Coalition where Rich and I will be live streaming WWE 2K18 Tag Team Killing Bitches Online.
Brett Murdoch. Come on, Brett, say something.
Damn it, I was on mute. See you, everybody.
And Richard Bailey Jr.
Yes, take care, everybody. New co-op this weekend, and we'll be streaming tomorrow, WWE.
That's what's up. All right, guys, we'll see you next time. Later.
Deuces.
Later, guys.
Peace.